From Rich Alvarez in Northern California, this is Video Game Fights. And now your host, Rich Alvarez.
Hello, and welcome to Video Game Fights on the Rich Alvarez channel. I'm Rich Alvarez. This is the very first Video Game Fight, so if you're watching this, you're in for a treat.
Episode 1! Woo!
That's right. We hope to do a lot more of these and improve the way that they look technically and improve the way that they move around and everything. So forgive us if this isn't like the greatest thing you've ever seen ever, but guess what, guys? We're going to make sure that it gets better every time. Totally. So anyways, I just wanted to give a special thanks, of course, to Screen Junkies. This is obviously very inspired by movie fights, so just want to get that out of the way. So in case an angry Admiral finds this video, he's like, oh, they stole our whole thing. I'm like, hey, but I love Screen Junkies. I'm a big fan, so this is totally inspired by movie fights. Credit to movie fights on the Screen Junkies channel. You can't get mad because I said it. All right. so
it's not a ripoff. It's an homage.
That's correct.
This butt is covered.
All right, so
let's proceed.
Basically, if you've seen that shit, you know how it works. If you don't, I'm going to explain it real quick. Basically, I'm going to ask them a series of questions. I'm going to give them each their own time to answer those questions. And then after they've each presented their pitches, they get to fight and kind of argue it out. And I will determine who the best winner is after each round. And then we will do a speed round after it comes down to the final two. One person will be eliminated after 5 questions. All right, so let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. I'm Rich Alvarez.
I'm Garrett, known mostly for my presence on the Rich Alvarez channel. Thank you.
I'm Laura, and I'm the owner of Oblivion Comics and Coffee, coming soon to downtown Sacramento.
It's super dope.
And I'm Chris, known only for my presence on the Rich Alvarez channel.
All right. So you guys, don't forget that you can look at the forward camera, and then you each have your own cameras on the sides if you would wish to address something a little bit closer to you. Let's. So Chris, go ahead and point at your camera. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so we are going to get right into this with round 1. All right.
Woo!
The first question is: after games like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games, what 2 other iconic video game characters should meet up in a game? And we're starting with Garrett. We're going clockwise.
Oh, sweet. Okay, so I'm an odd one to start with this round, but I'm going to roll with it. My choice might be a tad unconventional, but I like the idea. I would really, really like to see Shell from Portal meet up with Faith from Mirror's Edge. That's sort of my pitch. My idea being that we see a lot of power plays in video games. We see a lot of character dynamics. Not too many female pairs, though. Not too many, like, very action-oriented female pairs. The very heroine archetypes that usually presented are very much kind of lone survivor, whatnot. I love the idea of an action female duo. Second of all, it's a really, really good, very relevant piece of media on both ends. Both Portal and Mirror's Edge present a very, like, anti-regime sort of focus that I think would play into each other really well. And maybe most importantly, the Shell Faith, I guess you could say, dynamic would be most benefited from the crazy game mechanics that would appear. You would have one character in control of portals and managing directionality, and you could have a whole nother character basically with the parkour and the combat elements. Mix and match those, you have a game that would be literally unlike any other.
So a puzzle adventurer.
But not even just puzzle adventurer, but like multi-dimensional, asymmetric action platformer as presented through both of those games. With combating dystopia with a super, super cool visual feel being inevitable in both of those universes.
All right, so Shell from Portal and Faith from Mirror's Edge. Laura.
Yes.
All right, I feel like my choice is one of the more obvious choices. Lara Croft meets Nathan Drake. I mean, it's a pretty obvious thing. They're very much looking to find these mythical cities, these mythical items, and just finding these cool things that are lost to history. So I came up with this idea where they are dropped into the same universe, and they are Lara finds that her father was researching Agartha and Shambhala, and decides that she's going to keep researching it and find that they both originate from another mythical place, Thule. So she ends up hiring Nathan Drake, who has experience in both locations. He actually ended up destroying both.
All right.
So he's the expert. So she ends up hiring him and his legit company now, and they go out trying to find this place, and end up finding both of their enemies are after the same place too. So we bring in Nadine's army from Uncharted, and also Trinity from the last Rise of the Tomb Raider. And so they end up fighting them and trying to find this new mythical city. And it's just kind of a cool idea, in my opinion, to have them both working together to find this place. And also bringing in, maybe some of the other characters, like Laura's best friend Sam is a filmmaker, as well as Nathan's wife Elena. They could be working together to be documenting this. And just their overall skill sets as a team would be really interesting to see them work together. On top of that, I feel like it'd be interesting to see, how Nathan and Laura get along.
Yeah.
'Cause Nathan is very sarcastic, witty. He doesn't always make the greatest choices in the world. And Laura's she's a little more calculated, trying to make sure she's doing the right thing. So I think that they would have a little bit of a rocky relationship at the beginning. Like, she's, stop, be quiet, we got to do it this way. No, we got to do it this way. And I think it would be really a kind of a fun relationship to work through. But eventually, I think that they would work well together once they, their egos are put aside.
All right, so an action adventure starring Lara Croft from Tomb Raider and Nathan Drake from Uncharted. Chris, what do you have for us?
All right. So, in the original question, what do we have? Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Interesting mashup. We have the Mario franchise, long franchise, lots of games. Sonic franchise, tons of games. So I thought to myself, what are two other kind of Titan franchises that we could do a similar thing on? So mine is going to be Link versus Cloud, or more broader, Zelda versus Final Fantasy, a fighting game. So think of your Capcom versus Marvel, your Final Fantasy, Dissidia, even perhaps Soul Calibur, you might say. Giant breadth of characters in the entire Zelda franchise, lots of Zelda games to pick from. Of course, you'll have the main ones, Link and Zelda / Sheik and Ganondorf. And then, of course, all the kind of spin-off-y other characters. And then, of course, with Final Fantasy, every single one has a big main character. We know that in Final Fantasy Dissidia, they did something pretty popular. As far as the plot goes in this game, let's be honest, in fighting games, you don't really need a plot. I mean, I know that when Link was in Soul Calibur, they kind of had like a meta thing where they're like, every bad guy now is controlled by the Soul Edge. Whoa! So whoever wants to could make some gimmick, but nobody plays fighting games for the plot. People just want to beat each other up. So perhaps there'd be I think it would be more successful, kind of based on the Street Fighter or the Mortal Kombat fighting system, not Smash Bros or Soul Calibur, something kind of flat 2D. I guess Soul Calibur was more 3D. But point is, it'd be a fighting game, and the reason why I think it would be the best is because those franchises are so huge that the marketing would bring in all the fans from Final Fantasy, all the fans from Zelda, and probably would sell a crap ton of copies as long as they didn't, do some BS with DLC.
Okay, and then the Link versus Cloud would be like the cover image.
Yes, really, that's it.
Okay. All right, so we've got quite a few different ideas here.
Yeah, those are three very separate ideas. So we're already operating on an interesting foothold for the first argument.
That's the introduction to those. They've all given me their pitches. So Garrett, what makes your game better than theirs? And now we're fighting, so you guys can interject and interrupt them. And again, and I forgot to say this at the beginning. You guys be passionate, in your arguments and get in each other's faces. But at the end of the day, when this is all done, we're gonna shake hands and be friends. All right. So,
but we can still hate Richie.
If you
say still hate me, it's all right.
You are judging us, so
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
really, it's your fault.
Your friend.
So really, it's your fault.
All right, Garrett. So, what makes your game better than theirs?
Because it hasn't been done before. There's nothing. If that theoretically happened, there would be nothing else like it. Ever or since.
What part of it hasn't been done before?
The whole asymmetric action platformer idea. And maybe that's a stretch. Maybe that's a stretch in a few different senses. But when you think about like the visual style, those are two games that stand out on their own respect, kind of as visual or in a visual stylistic sense, but are kind of similar to each other. And I know dystopia has been explored a lot, and overthrowing regimes is certainly a thing in a lot of different games. But here we have something totally fresh as far as basically a 2-woman army taking on this very, very vague sort of a vague but relatable sort of oppressive system. And it'd be interesting. I didn't even touch on this. I think it'd be interesting to see how GLaDOS works within the government archetype there. I liked. I gotta say, it's worth mentioning that I was super close to picking Nathan and Laura. Like, I was super close to picking your answer, and for that reason, I really like it. I do. I think that would be a good one. If I had to make a counter argument to it, it would be that it's almost too easy. It really is. In fact, it's like
but Nathan and Laura are they're very real characters that you can actually really connect to and understand.
But how do is there room for a Laura and Nathan's game? Is there room for Nathan and a Laura game?
Totally.
Because they traditionally are kind of in the spotlight. Do you flush out those characters?
Well, I mean, people like to play both characters, so it could be a game where you switch back and forth. Maybe they get separated and you can choose which one do I want to play. Which adventure do I want to go on? Do I want to go follow Nathan, who just fell down a trap door, or do I want to
as he is wont to do?
Do I want to follow Laura, who's going up this steep cliff?
In this, because this for some reason this is an important distinction to me. Do you feel that in your game, like consecutive co-op could be a thing? Like one person is Laura, one person is Nathan.
Yeah, co-op is like my number one thing that I love about games. Because there's so little games now that you can sit down and you can play with your friends on the couch co-op, or even if you want to do it in multiplayer. In these narrative games, it's kind of hard to do that.
For sure.
So definitely a co-op type thing with Laura and Nathan would be amazing. And that would be something that I would expect from this kind of crossover type thing.
And I have a ton of faith in those developers. So they would make something
someday.
Good. Honestly, I love the idea. The biggest criticism I can really offer of it is the fact that we've been down that road. We've seen like 2 really good Tomb Raider games. We've seen like 5 really, really good Uncharted games. We've seen, if you include all the weird like mobile ports and whatnot. But consistently, the franchise is doing pretty good.
The one coming out this year.
Yeah, exactly. I have faith. So we've seen a bunch of really good Uncharted games and whatnot. And here, we've got this idea that there could be a crossover that would be very natural. And honestly, like the biggest argument I could make against it is like, yeah, no, we would have it. It would be good, but it would be nothing new. It would be just a really good version of where we've been before.
I've heard a lot from you two, Chris.
You need to speak up.
I need a lot more.
Come at me.
So going back to why I think mine is the best, because I think that mine kind of strikes a little bit harder to the original question, which Richie's example again was Mario versus Sonic. Why was that an iconic mashup? Because there was a giant rivalry for a very long time. Now, the reason I think that
rivalry was kind of meta, though.
Oh, but it was still a rivalry. Sega does what Nintendo...
It was exclusively meta.
That was not meta. They marketed with it in all the commercials.
That's meta, though.
Meta would be if the fans were going about it. But anyway,
that's also meta.
My point...
You're touching on a lot of meta things, but anyway.
We're not arguing what meta is. Continue.
You're just saying things are meta. Not meta. Anyway, so the reason why I think this one is a better mashup is because I think that the rivalry has a deeper significance for fans. Lots of kids, unless you're Richie, either had a Nintendo console growing up or a Sony console growing up, didn't necessarily have both.
Oh,
so
I see.
There's a rivalry already there, right? Where a lot of kids were like, ooh, if I'm a Sony kid, then I'm going to be playing Final Fantasy. And then the kids are like, oh, well, I'm better because I have Nintendo. And Cloud and Link, even though they're just the covers on the picture, would kind of strike at that that kind of deep childhood, like, oh, screw that guy, he's a Sony fan. Filthy, gross, not as good as Nintendo. So I think that, okay, I see what you mean now when you said meta. Except I would use it a little bit differently. It goes beyond it's beyond the game.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah.
I take back what I said.
I was really only pointing out the fact that there's been no actual canonic rivalry between the two characters.
I'll say the rivalry. I see what you mean now. It isn't in game. It's between the companies, Sega,
correct?
Not Sega, Nintendo, and Sony.
So we agree that's meta.
I take back what I said. I take back everything I said, except for the part where I agree with Garrett, and it makes my point stronger because meta is in. So it's a meta.
To your point, the fact that it's a meta argument doesn't make it invalid.
Okay, so Garrett, you're saying that you think yours is the best because you're taking two popular but sort of obscure games and you're mashing them up into something.
It'd be very unexpected, and it would be something very different. It would produce a game that has formulaically never really been touched on in that exact way.
Okay,
that's my big argument.
And my crap on Garrett's idea is it's so niche, it's almost hipster, cultish, and it's not going to sell any games.
Okay, and Laura, you're saying that the Tomb Raider and Uncharted, those are two very popular adventure games, and you just feel like, above the story that you presented, that also that game would be something that people really want, right?
Yes, definitely. It's something that a lot of people talk about all over the place. So this is the team up we want to see in this type of game.
Okay. It is. I will say it is undoubtedly the crossover we are most likely to see in real life. It is overwhelmingly the most likely, like way more likely than either one of these me and Chris is going to happen. Does that make it the best?
May the Force bring that to us.
Does it make it the best? I don't know, but is it the most likely? I think that's fair to say.
I would say mine is actually fairly likely because we already had Cloud in the new Smash Bros. Game.
They have been going. It is easy to get cross-platform.
There is a little bit of footsie flirting going on.
Okay,
oh, he's calling it. He's calling it. He's calling it.
Mine has meta.
I understand everything. All right.
Okay.
Man, Andy Signore isn't kidding when he says, this is tough.
Yeah, right? Yeah, right?
All right, let's go to the fact checker cam. Fact checker cam. All right, Jackie, did you find anything that needed fact checking, or was it? I thought it was pretty smooth.
It was pretty smooth. I just kind of looked up some facts just for fun, and the only female video game duo I found online was Peach and Daisy in the various Mario games.
Oh yeah.
Team up. So that's really the only female duo I found. And then I shouldn't have dove in, but I dove into the Cloud and Link argument, and I found.
Did you find anime fan art on the internet?
No, I did not. No, I didn't search pictures. Luckily,
I'm thinking of that episode of South Park with Clyde and
Clyde X.
Don't Google search that.
I found quite a heated argument online that boiled down to a protagonist without speech is not the same thing as a protagonist without personality. So. That's it.
Which is why a fighting game would be great.
I only have one.
It could probably only exist.
It could only exist as a thing.
Yeah, the only thing I found was how many Uncharted did you say there were? I know this wasn't your point.
There's 4.
There's 4.
There's
four and one in development, and
maybe.
It's happening, right?
Right.
The fifth development. The fifth
Yeah, the
Uncharted
5th one comes
out
out this year.
You know, I realize you guys back there, you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself. So now that we're back on the fact checking cam, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Jackie. I live on a castle made of clouds, and I ride on a unicorn.
Derek?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Derek. You know me from nothing.
He's a vital cog to everything that you guys do know, though.
But you will be the brain behind the computer of this show. All right.
We are at your mercy.
So, guys, based on the arguments, and I can't stress that enough, personal opinion completely out of it, based on the arguments, Derek, who did you think brought the strongest argument?
Because Garrett's bad at arguing his own points.
I did think that, Garrett, you spent too much time complimenting them on their choices.
I did a little bit. I tend to be a
I was
little
going to say something, but I was like, I'm just going to let him talk.
No, that's a great one too. That's a great way to lose,
Okay,
my friend.
I'm going to be super mean next round then.
All right, please. But who did you think did the best, though?
The person who presented the best argument for their case was actually Chris.
Ooh.
Despite Garrett's support for Laura's proposition, Chris brought a well-known fan base for those two characters into his argument that nobody else did. Nobody else did that. Everybody else just talked about their personalities and how they would mesh. Chris actually showed that there'd be a market for it.
Good.
You know, Laura did talk about markets a little bit. Here I am complimenting Laura again.
He obviously
Jackie.
wants me to win this round.
Garrett,
That's
whose
pretty obvious.
side are you on?
Laura's. Wait, is that not obvious?
Jackie, who do you think had the best argument?
Oh man, I can't decide.
Okay.
Because
Well,
I put me in that situation.
Derek did. Derek had the best argument.
Garrett,
Derek has
I,
the best argument. Yeah, I agree.
Garrett, I felt like you started out really strong, and then I don't know what happened. You just you started just complimenting Laura. And And
I
then
will
Laura,
say this: he made my argument stronger too. So I really got to thank Garrett.
it really
Clearly, I'm a little too thought out on all these
That's right.
things.
We're gonna get used to these. We're gonna get used to these.
Yeah, right.
So for this one, it really was between Laura and Chris. And I could tell Laura was really passionate about. I mean, there's I know she loves Sir Nathan Drake.
I actually wrote out the game.
Yeah, I mean,
I over prepared for this.
I could visualize.
I can share the details later.
I could definitely visualize your game, but Chris also made a lot of really good points on why people would really want to play that game. And just so everybody, I would play all 3 of these games. I really would. These all sound like fantastic games, but
You would have to. They literally got pitched on your show. You'd kind of be a jerk if you didn't.
All right, I have to make a call here, though, so I think the first point was really close. The first point here goes to Laura.
Woo!
Ding, 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 ding.
Woo!
Chris, if you just talked a little bit about like the opening cutscene of the fighting game.
I realized
something.
I spent
Gotta
more
bait
time
it.
talking about how
Why the
That's fair.
rivalry is really
Like,
good?
no, that's fair.
I was even trying to push. I was like, so they're just undercover.
That was probably my weakest answer on all these. I spent the least amount of time on. But fair enough.
If you were just like, man, but also there's this opening cutscene where Link and Cloud fight, and then it gets into the fight game.
I forgot to mention. Yeah, I forgot. I was going to talk
Actually,
about
it was close. It was close.
I like the idea of the female duo.
Oh.
The female duo, it sounds amazing. And that's also another reason why I'm excited for the next Uncharted, because it's Chloe and Nadine.
Oh, yeah, that's
Sweet.
right. Well, that was an excellent first round. Laura wins, and
What?
What?
She learned to wait until after
I waited.
the argument to compliment her.
Yeah. We're learning here. We're learning. Okay.
If I were Mr. Potato Head, this would be like, all right, the angry eyes are coming out. Like just kink.
I would play your game, though. It sounds amazing.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd
But-
play it too.
We got a speech and debate here. All right. All right, so round 2. Pitch the next Uncharted game. And this time we're starting with Laura.
Again,
Who probably has home court advantage.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I will say-
we're going to pick the favorite game of Lauren and have her make it. Total home court advantage.
That's right. So,
So-
Laura gets her time now.
okay, so again, I kind of over-prepared, and I actually, wrote out this game. But for the next Uncharted game, I'll try and make this short. I want to see the Drake family. So at the end of Uncharted 4, we see that years later, they now have a daughter, Cassie. So they're doing everything totally legal, legit. They've got a company. They get permits to go and find these treasures and whatnot. So now I want to see the family as a whole going out on these adventures and finding things. But for this game, I want it to focus on Cassie. I want you to play as Cassie. I want there to be a main female character in the Uncharted series. And since you played as Cassie at the end of Uncharted 4, that was a good transition into her being the main focus. So I want to see them find Atlantis this time. I want them to go together and find Atlantis. And I want, sorry Nathan, I want Nathan to somehow be captured and basically kind of be blackmailed to help whatever this bad group is, to be helping them. Otherwise they're going to hurt his family. But Elena and Cassie are very strong characters. They have a very strong presence, especially Elena in the series. So now I want it to focus on Cassie and Elena. I want to bring more of the female presence in Uncharted. I want it to be more in focus. And I want to see that bonding between a mother and daughter. We get that a lot with Nathan and Sully in the previous games, and we see that bonding with his brother Sam. And so I want to see that more with Cassie and her mom. And just kind of going through that journey. Then they end up obviously meeting back up with Nathan. We can't just leave him to die or anything.
Do it.
But I want them to, they end up back together. They do end up finding Atlantis in the end. And a very drastic difference from the previous games. I don't want the city to be destroyed in the end. They all get destroyed. So I want this time, I want it to survive and be that, this is what we accomplished as a family. We found the mythical Atlantis, and it's still intact, and we can share it with the world. So that is kind of my overall game idea. And I can go into more detail, but that's the
Maybe you can get into it during the arguments, if they say something.
Yeah.
All right, so that was Laura's pitch.
Back pocket.
Atlantis with the
hit
Drake
you with some
family.
knowledge.
Drake gets kidnapped, and the game focuses on Cassie then.
Mainly
That's who you
Cassie's
play as.
daughter. Yeah, I want to
Okay.
see also when she's older, so she's like maybe older teens, so
Okay.
not still a child.
Right,
Chris,
somewhat
pitch
physically
the
capable.
next Uncharted game.
Aliens.
Meantime.
Meantime.
Yeah.
All right. So I will start this off by saying I've never actually played an Uncharted game. However, I did watch the entire cinematic YouTube cut of the first game when Richie got me into it a few years ago, and I watched part of the second game. So all of my knowledge really of Uncharted is just from the first game. So, and I'm going to piss people off for saying this, but I realize it's basically a modern day ripoff of Indiana Jones, or homage. Since we're
We're using the word homage.
we're using the word homage, but it's
I
modern
feel
day,
better about that.
It's modern day Indiana Jones. So, hence my looping in Aliens. I thought to myself, Indiana Jones was great until we got the fourth one, which was terrible because of Aliens. So imagine Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, but good because it wasn't terrible. So how am I going to go about that? Well, here's what I'm thinking. In Uncharted games, there's always some old mythical place or object from some ancient civilization. Like I said, I haven't really played the second or third one, so I don't know if they've done ancient Egypt yet. Have they done Egyptian stuff?
There's stuff from all over the place, but they didn't have a game that completely focused on
All right,
it.
cool.
don't think so.
We're doing ancient Egypt. So imagine the plot of the original movie Stargate, right? Except there's a twist on this. So in ancient Egyptian culture, there's the three giant pyramids, right? And they do stuff to the stars. So the big twist in this one is Drake's gonna go and he's gonna be looking around in Egypt, and there's gonna be these rumors that there's some old advanced civilization that actually built the pyramids, but they weren't human. They were actually aliens that came down, and that's what started all the technology. Because from a historical perspective, we look at humanity, and all of a sudden there's cavemen and an ice age, and bam, all this technology with Egypt, and they've got all this cool stuff. So the big twist in this one is that they go and they find out that the original people, because this gets a little bit sci-fi, who came to Earth and started all this technology were aliens from a different planet. And
As opposed to
As opposed to the aliens that live underneath the core's crust.
Yeah, right. Yeah. As opposed to other aliens.
The mole man that live underneath
But
the ground.
anyway, they find out that we're not alone, and there's an ancient race, and they brought all of this tech. And then the really cool thing, and this is where I think it kind of brings it back in, is they find out that the aliens discovered immortality for all biological creatures. So that's the big secret prize or whatever that they're going to fight over. So there can be, I don't know who the bad guys are in Uncharted, so that's where I'm targeting. But they'll try and twist that. People live forever to kill everybody. And that'll be the big thing. So aliens had some immortality device, and if you use it wrong, it kills everybody. And Drake's got to use it for good.
I just gotta say, in honor of belated media, what if Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull were good? Really good. Okay. Alright, now, sorry, moving on to Garrett. Garrett, what is your pitch for the next Uncharted game?
Okay, very good. So we know for the most part that Naughty Dog is looking to wrap up their franchise right now. That they're saying that more or less the Nathan Drake arc is coming to an end after this one. They've made, I think it's concrete to say. We'll see if Jackie supports me on this other one here, but I think it's concrete to say Naughty Dog's looking to wrap this one up. So for a game that continues onwards, I agree with them. I think Nathan Drake as a character has been great and explored, but I think we need to call it quits with that one. I'm pitching we go into the past because I love history and I want to see the kind of this historical context of this robust family of crazed explorers. I want to see their pioneer roots in early America. So I'm pitching an Old West Uncharted. I'm pitching a very rustic sort of early frontier Uncharted that takes place in the Old West for a few reasons. One, because Uncharted's always had great environments, beautiful level design and whatnot, and I think I think a lot of the robust platforming nature of it really suits the Old West well. There's really only a handful of good Old West games out there, Red Dead Redemption, but here's an opportunity for Nathan Drake's ancestor to take this on.
So the main character is still a Drake.
He is a Drake in the sense. Whether or not it's actually his last name is Drake, hard to say, but I guess in my head canon, he is of direct lineage to Mr. Drake. Well,
Laura has things to say.
I know she understands She understands the backstory a little bit better than I do, but that doesn't mean that we can't have an ancestor, be in a Wild West game. I want to incorporate maybe not. I don't want to make a survival game, but I want to make survival elements a thing. I want to see an environment that you have to work a little bit more to survive in, and work a little bit more to do this to kind of compensate for a lot of that. I want it to feel a little bit exposed, and furthermore, I want it to. I would really, really like to see an individual caught between sort of the Native American, the Western and Western expansionist sort of movements. Especially considering we can get into some crazy Native American sort of shamanistic stuff. You don't see Native Americans represented in the truly terrifying fashion that they deserve to be represented in.
Unless you've seen The Departed. Not The Departed. That was another movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. What was the new one that just came out?
Bear Mall. That one?
No.
Bear Mall.
It had a weird name. I don't remember what the name was.
Anybody remember the Leo movie he just won an Oscar for last year?
Yeah, there's the one we got.
Revenant.
The Revenant.
Revenant, yeah.
Thank you, Jackie.
Not a video game, though.
Sorry, I said The Departed. I meant The Revenant.
Yeah, well, I
Please
didn't
don't kill me in the comments.
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry, what you presented there with the Native Americans sounded a lot like The Revenant, not The Departed.
Right, but there's no video game portrayal of that. We get it a little bit with Red Dead Redemption, but like Native Americans were an army functionally standing down with an 1,000-year technological disadvantage, and no game has really stepped out to make them anything other than cannon fodder. Like, I would really, really like to see a game where an ancestor to these Uncharted folks goes back in time, uncovers a lot of the sort of the spiritual, shamanistic relevance of a lot of these cultural movements, really, really sets the tone for the brutality that the West was, and kind of gives a story that is it's often untold, but is very, very important to kind of just the common American lineage that a lot of us have.
Okay. All right, so Laura, how is your game better than these other two? Fighting time.
I love the more mythical storylines. I like it when games jump into those things that we don't really know if they exist, or if they exist, we don't know where they are. So the idea for mine with finding Atlantis, I actually also brought in the idea of Atlantis is actually veiled inside the Bermuda Triangle. The Bermuda Triangle is actually there to protect the city, and is also connected to the Dragon Triangle over, I believe, near Japan. Which
so it's like the entrance and exit or something?
Yeah, like the one in...
I feel like this is you also... Is this also you beginning to pitch your lore?
I told you...
I know, this is you bridging question 1 and 2. Because the Dragon Triangle was very relevant within Tomb Raider. Well, I know that much.
That's a little different. No, but the Dragon Triangle, though, was in this is also masking Mount Panglai, which is another mythical city similar to Atlantis. We don't know if it exists. We don't know where it is. And the story that I have around it is the
flushed out.
The gods and stuff. It's all connected, and they find out all of these things about how things across the world are actually connected.
Tomb Raider and Uncharted.
I'm not putting Tomb Raider in this. No, but the fleshed out game that I have, I really was like, oh, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and they learn this, and then there's the bad guys, and then they learn this, and then maybe they end up having to actually work together to stop the end of the world, basically. And so, but
Interesting.
But again,
kind of been done. Don't you feel that it draws some parallels to Disney's Atlantis?
I was about to say the same.
Don't you feel like
the thing is, there's a lot.
anytime you
That's
mention Atlantis?
true.
Yeah.
It's actually really hard. That was one of the
So how are you
things.
going to distinguish
was-
this from Disney's
Yeah,
Atlantis?
because Atlantis has been touched on
again
a
because
lot.
it pulls from also the Mount Panglay elements too. That itself was, there were 8 immortals that lived in this place. So we took the idea of the gods of Atlantis and whatnot, and these immortals, and I'm putting them into the same story.
Right, yeah,
These
but-
immortals are the gods.
The
And then
details
we
are
took-
good.
Like
The details
we're
are solid.
combining it to work together.
But doesn't that sound a little Disney's Atlantis-ish though?
But
Doesn't it still? I mean, I know
but
you're separating them, but like,
yeah, there's an energy godly type thing in
Mm-hmm.
the story that I wrote. But the thing is, a lot of the stories around Atlantis are that story.
they are. That's true. Not only that, but
So
don't you feel that
the twist on it is pulling in the Mount
this global
the
context?
Mount Panglay myth also.
Don't you kind of feel that like Uncharted is such a series that depends that its real success has been that it's relatively rooted in plausibility, that its ventures outside into the realm of, which is where I'm going to come after you in a second. But don't you feel like the big chrism, the big jewel of Uncharted is the fact that when they do get into a little bit of the obscure, it's just a few steps outside of plausibility.
Just a little more towards the
And then we get. So, do you feel like literally a domed ancient city underneath the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean would be maybe a
not
giant
domed.
step in like the weird?
No, it's actually veiled by an energy technology.
Don't you think
So
that
when you
maybe
go
that's
in-
also a dome?
No. Like you can go through it, you just can't see it.
I mean, that's fine.
And people disappear in the Bermuda Triangle because they've entered that veil.
Right. I understand the connection, and I think it's beautifully thought out, but I don't think it's very
Okay.
Uncharted. I don't think it's very Uncharted.
But at the same time, we also forget that the main thing in this story is that it's about the Drake family. It's not about
Correct.
It's not about Nathan so much anymore. It's about Cassie and
Do
Elena.
you think you could, in good conscience, turn Uncharted fans against Drake? Do you think that would go over well? Because
Why would they go against Drake?
Well, because you said he's joining the bad side,
But
whatnot,
he's
and they're
got-
pulling him right out of the
he's-
spotlight.
He's intelligent, though. He knows
Oh, I'm
what's
sure.
at stake, and he also knows
But-
how to redirect.
Yeah, but like, do you think people would go for that? Do you think people would like an Uncharted game that's not about him, that's away from him?
I think they would, yeah, because
Okay.
again, the women, especially Elena too, the women in Uncharted are still very much loved. Like people are excited about the new one with Chloe and Nadine, even though Nadine was a bad guy in the last game.
Which is a curious development. Also, you.
All right, buddy.
Your turn.
Chris, you need to speak up, my friend.
All right, I know. There's
So
a lot of free
I've got a
thought.
lot of things I want to say. So first
Okay.
off, going to yours, I still think you haven't explained why Atlantis is a good idea because, again, going back to
Aren't there
Disney's
other
Atlantis,
aren't there a ton of
So
cool
here's-
natural wonders to tackle that aren't
here's-
Atlantis?
So as far as the Atlantis goes in the Disney movie, what's the MacGuffin? The MacGuffin is they find some super energy source. So that's the prize that they're going after. So I feel like you've done a good job with the character development and everything, but I feel like the prize was kind of like, oh, well, every Atlantis has a power thing or whatever, there's gods. So what's the... I feel like you didn't do a very good job explaining like what they're going to get out of it. Is it a superpower? Somebody's going to destroy the world. Are they preventing something? Are they taking a power back?
I mean, you did literally pitch an alien invasion.
I did? No, it wasn't an alien invasion. I was.
Oh, they've been here the whole time, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
or something like that.
They've been
He's
here-
pitching
No,
human
but,
extinction.
But I did a good
Yeah, right.
job with my MacGuffin, and that's no, I'm not done yet.
No, you're done. You're done. I've heard
No,
enough.
I haven't said what I don't
That's
like
how this
about,
game works. I've heard
Derek's.
enough.
He's dropping the hammer.
And then Derek doesn't have a MacGuffin because it's just Old West stuff.
Okay.
Mine had immortality. His was just ancestors.
Hey,
So we got-
shamanistic and cultural context is important, Chris.
That's right. When I feel like I've heard what I need to hear, I don't need to hear any more back about Garrett because sadly, Garrett, you did better this round. You learned from your mistakes in round one. But I would love to see Naughty Dog do an Old West game. I didn't.
You don't think it's
I
Uncharted?
didn't feel Uncharted in your pitch. Yeah. That's all. I got like a really cool like. Oh yeah, Naughty Dog is so good at making all these environments in Uncharted that they'd be great at an Old West game. I agree. But I don't think it should be Uncharted, So,
Okay.
So I think you did a good job, buddy. You did a good job. But and then Chris, I think you also did better in this round. You gave me a lot of like what the characters are doing, and I definitely got a sense of what was happening. It did feel a little like Stargate, but I didn't hold that against you because. Yeah. Again, I don't think that.
I think Chris is just
an homage.
I think Chris is just angry aliens didn't build the pyramids. I think he's really angry.
There you go. And also,
he's just really bad.
We've seen things about like ancient aliens and Egypt and stuff. Just like we've also seen Atlantis. So you guys both kind of took from different stuff, and that's fine. As far as what I felt like, I've just, I know that. I just
give her the point already, Richie.
Laura gets the point.
We knew it was a freebie.
I wrote it down before you even started talking. I was like, Laura wrote that.
There's no way you were going to give
Laura
that to
is
us.
a huge Uncharted fan. Just her pitch just sounded the most like Uncharted.
Now, if it was,
I can't
the next
compete with
Mass Effect game or pitch the next Zelda game.
Clearly,
or just a game.
Yeah, Chris, you guys both were giving me like I'm not kidding. I would play all these games. But I felt like those were like weird, like Naughty Dog trying to make a weird spin-off, kind of a games where I felt like Laura's game could be the next.
I don't
Uncharted
disagree.
game.
Well, yeah, because she physically represented like Uncharted lore.
All right,
You did your job.
Yeah, let's go to the fact checkers. I guess.
I was gonna say I didn't even need the fact checkers on that because I already knew who my winner was. But let's go to Jackie anyway. What did you think?
So, Garrett had me look up the thing about Uncharted 5 being the last thing. And the only thing I found was that Naughty Dog said that Uncharted 4 was the end for Nathan, and that if Uncharted 5 happened, which it is now, it was up to Sony, and Nathan won't be in it.
No.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean that it's the rest of the family won't be.
Okay.
Just him.
A factual sales counterpoint, because that's my expertise, for Garrett's, where he brought up nobody would play or buy something where Nathan was all of a sudden the bad guy. Have you seen Rogue One? No?
Wait.
We all
We were in the theater together for starters.
All right, that's all good. Round 3.
I have another fact.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
what was
wait.
the fact? That's right. It doesn't matter anymore. We'll get you next time, Jackie. All right, I've heard enough for all of that. Whew, man, this is tough. All right, so round.
I think these first two went as 3. They should have.
That was great. Yeah. So starting with Chris this time. Chris,
here we go.
Who is the best video game character?
Okay.
This is of all time.
So, the best.
Which makes this question really hard.
Video game character of all time is Mario. Here's my case. First off, number 1, let's talk about money. How much money has Mario made? Well, you'll have fun knowing that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, but the Mario franchise in total has sold 528 million copies of games. That is the number 1 best-selling franchise of any other ones. I looked up the stats. Tetris is actually behind it at number 2 at 495 million, but the Mario franchise as a whole has sold the most titles. So from a monetary perspective, it's doing what businesses need, which is making money. Now, the second thing I'll say is that it's got basically brand icon dominance. When you point at a picture of Mario and Mickey Mouse and Jesus, I bet more people know who Mario is.
Whoa.
Just saying. Because
just pulled a John Lennon right there.
Number 3.
You heard it here first.
Number 3. Why brand appeal? Now, I already can see a potential argument saying, oh, well, there's way too many terrible spin-offs. But the problem with spin-offs is that it can water the brand down. I don't think that that's actually been the case because every time a new Mario game comes out, people get super freaking hyped, and Nintendo has continually always made sure that near the beginning of a console launch, there's been a giant Mario game, a la the Wii U had New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, Nintendo 64, Mario 64. Technically, the GameCube had Luigi's Mansion. Mario was in it for a little bit, but I'll count that as a Mario platformer. Third thing, nostalgia. Everybody at some point who got into video games has probably played Mario. So 80s kids had the 2D stuff. 90s kids had the 64. Modern day kids even have the freaking app on the phone, the Mario Running app, which I haven't played, but apparently kids really like it because most kids have cell phones. More kids have cell phones than Game Boys. But the point is, the reason that Mario is the best is because He's made the most money, he has the most brand awareness, he has the most variety of games, and he's got the nostalgia factor.
All right, drop the pen. Garrett, what
Gotta make
is
a
the
comeback
best
now.
video game character of all time?
Okay, I'm going literally on a totally different tangent with that one, because I picked GLaDOS, which couldn't have been a more different answer than Mario for a lot of reasons. But here's the thing. We are entering into a time right now where, like, artificial intelligence, AI, characters or otherwise, become a really prevalent conversation in, this century and whatnot. So who is the standard for AI antagonists? For a long time, it was the Borg. For a long time, it was, although they're not really AI and whatnot, but there's been the Terminators, etc. There's been all these kind of pre-2000 sort of arguments that came about. But I think GLaDOS is very much like the definitive AI antagonist for post-2000s. Furthermore, she's just if I may, is just a really good written villain. Scary when she needs to be. Excellent. Every single time she says something, it's hilarious. It's perfect. It's relatable. But not only that, but her quips about humanity and just a lot of the things that she has to say throughout the game make you wonder if she's right the entire time, which sets the awesome context for a lot of the Portal games and a lot of just that whole sort of spectrum. Maybe she is right. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's heartless. Hard to say. But I find her the fact that she's more or less the one-ish speaking centerpiece of the Portal franchise and really holds has catapulted that franchise to an iconic and timeless nature just kind of in its own. A good character that was it's very difficult to write a character that walks the line between artificial and human, and I think that's the model. We're already seeing that model being extrapolated. I mean, they basically ripped GLaDOS straight out of Portal for Pacific Rim. And ever since Portal's come out and whatnot, and this is less due to Portal and more to just the fact that AI is very relevant right now, we see a lot of them, and we see a lot of very GLaDOS-like tropes. We see the whole, haha, humans are laughable sort of things, the whole, your quips are so unusual sort of thing and whatnot. And as far as like post-2000s media is concerned, to make that a very light-hearted sort of thing, I want to say GLaDOS was the one that did it the biggest straight out the gate.
All right.
As far as post-2000s concerned.
Good. Laura, how about you? Who's the best video game character?
Oh, I wonder who.
Oh, wait!
What? Okay, this was actually a little hard for me to pick because I do like a lot of characters, but I chose Nathan Drake, and it's for various reasons. Just first, looking at him as a character, he feels very much like a real person. He was written very well. He has a history. He has a personality. He's sarcastic, witty. He's smart. Curious, he feels very relatable. He was the design of him was accurate. He looks like a person. His proportions aren't awkward. He's not like overly buff or anything. Like he seems normal. And one thing that I know Naughty Dog also does too is they're very much about being more realistic. So his clothing is a little more normal. It's not like some extra designed stuff like a lot of games that we see, like Assassin's Creed or something. So that was one thing, is looking at him as a character, the way he looks, the way he was designed. Another thing was the way that they actually brought him to life. They used Nolan North to do both the mocap and voice, and so he was very much that character. And I know that they also did, before they actually recorded things, they did several table reads. They did blocking walkthroughs. They even allowed the actors to improvise in their scenes as they were recording things to allow them to be able to make these characters really come to life and be real to us. And so especially Nolan North's performance as Nathan Drake really drew me to the Uncharted game and kept me playing them, because the character was so interesting. And so out of all of the games that I've played, he's the one that stands out the most to me, the most real, the most relatable, the one that I would probably play any game that he was in. So that was a lot shorter than my last two.
Okay. Well, Chris, tell us what makes Mario better.
So I think what I'm going to do is tear down other ideas. So I liked Garrett's answer. But I think that he got the wrong question, and his question would have been better suited to who's the most creative villain in the last 10 years.
Well, your question would have been better suited to who's the most iconic video game character.
But I guess it depends on your definition of best.
Which then at that point we turn to the question generator.
But anyway, my point though is that I think you did a good job. I think you did a good job explaining.
We're done.
Describing a good villain.
Right.
But I don't think you did a good job explaining why the character is the best. And I think that if you're going to go best of all time, you do have to go meta, and I went very meta on mine. Going to Laura's, I think that her explanation of Drake being very real and having depth, that problem is you could give that same answer to other video game characters, like Snake from Metal Gear Solid. He's got a lot of depth. Other characters from Final Fantasy, like Squall or Cloud. I think that
they weren't mocapped by Nolan North.
They weren't what?
They weren't mocapped. No, I'm kidding.
I think you're voting for me right now.
Well, the voice
I'm voting for Nolan North. It's fine.
Whatever the guy's name that does Solid Snake, David something. David.
It was David Hayter before.
David
okay, that's another story.
Anyway,
that's another story. Yeah.
Arguably a better voice actor, but that's.
I liked your argument for Mario.
My point is,
I like
if we're gonna go best video game character of all time, Mario again. If you were to have a picture of Mario and Nathan Drake and whoever you said, everybody would pick Mario.
I agree in the iconic nature of it. I really do. I think you're knocking on something there. But he's devoid of all the elements that are a character. He doesn't have development. He does a lot of different games and adventures and whatnot, but he doesn't have like a character spanning sort of like developmental process and whatnot. His dialogue's generally pretty weak. He is undoubtedly one of the most powerful marketing forces out there, but that's not a character. That's a marketing force.
Some people say you're a character. It means that you're it's very similar to the word caricature. You're basically put in a box and you've got like a calling card.
I guess I forgot the last time someone put a famous Mario quote on Facebook.
Okay, so I feel
player one.
I totally get the whole nostalgia thing. I'm like that with Sonic, to be totally honest. But I feel
she's
like
on the other team.
I feel yes, I am. I'm on the other team. But I feel like your argument was mainly about game. It's not about the character itself. It's about the games. And so I feel like your answer doesn't exactly apply to this question because it was mostly about the but I mean Mario.
If anything, this really just demonstrated what we look for in games. Because holy crap, three very different definitions.
But like
of best.
if you started talking about all this stuff without us knowing what the question is, I would have thought you were just talking about a game, not the character itself.
Or a franchise. Yeah, your arguments worked really well as like what was the most timeless franchise, but that's the whole thing.
Well, I guess it again depends on what you.
We do have to take down Nathan Drake too, because right now she's in the lead.
That's true.
And if we don't give her some,
all right, go ahead.
All right, Nathan. Here's what I think about Nathan Drake. Laura.
He's sexy. That's what he is.
No, you can't. I have things written down.
I know what you're about to do, but it's okay. Let's go to Jackie. Jackie.
If it goes to best though, what's the best for Nintendo? Who made the most money?
Okay, Chris, you're done. Jackie.
Nintendo.
I was searching on all various different websites for what people thought was the best character, and it didn't come up with actually any of your characters. But what I did
what is more commonly, not that clickbait articles are.
I found Master Chief very, very commonly, and Gordon Freeman from Half-Life.
Which is really interesting. He doesn't say anything.
The most iconic video game characters. It definitely came up with Mario.
Chris wins if the word was iconic.
That wasn't the question.
He wins by a landslide, but it wasn't the question. Yeah.
It's funny. It was actually your stat was factually incorrect, but to your favor. The first 7 different, like when you look up best-selling franchise games, the first 7 are some version of Mario. It's an insane amount have been sold with his name on it. So it wasn't.
So you actually understated.
You understated it extremely.
But again.
And that was the only factual.
All right. Well, here's how it goes. On Movie Fights, they're also arguing all the time, especially with Hal Rudnick, because he's like, it's iconic, it's iconic, it's iconic. And they're always arguing, like, does iconic and familiarity with the character equal the best character? And, Andy's always gone back and forth. But here's what it came down to for me. If I feel like, Laura, once again, you obviously really know the character of Nathan Drake, but you told me everything that I needed to know about Nathan Drake if it was like, who knows the most about Nathan Drake? So this time, unfortunately, you were actually in the bottom tier of this round, I guess, if I had to say, Garrett, you gave me a lot, I have to admit, Chris was right. If we were talking best villain, you gave a lot of good points, but you didn't really give me
She's a damn good villain.
You didn't really give me, like, the whole global, like, how does GLaDOS in the, like, besides, you gave the Pacific Rim. That was good. If you give me, like, 5 more of those, but, I gotta go with Chris this time, because he...
Hey, guys! Rich picked Mario.
No, I'm seriously, being as unbiased as possible.
The deck with positive.
This is what I heard. I heard
stuff for the first
and
two
again,
questions.
I love all of you guys. You guys, obviously did your research, and you've all done. You've been playing this game fantastically so far. But Chris definitely looked for what Mario's effect on the world was. And he's right, he pulled out those facts. If Chris hadn't pulled, maybe 2 or 3 less facts, then Chris wouldn't have won. But he knew that, Chris obviously looked up Mario stuff, and Chris knew, and we can argue iconic versus best all day, but ultimately it just sounded like Chris had the better arguments for what made a best character best by being
There's no
iconic.
denying Mario was influential.
And
there's no denying
made a subtle John Lennon reference.
That had nothing to do with my opinion. All right.
He wasn't kidding when he said he was going to try to appeal to the...
We're going to move right along
door here.
All right, so round 4.
All right.
Okay.
I'm starting.
Woo! Now, back to Garrett.
Okay.
Garrett, what was the worst game of 2016?
Well, we had a lot of rough games in 2016, kids. We sure did. We had some really rough launches. The Division and Pokemon Go come out as really rough launches. We had some really bad marketing games that are what? Oh, that camera. Okay. We had some really rough launches. We also had some really poorly marketed games. Some really bad examples of PR. No Man's Sky pops up. But I think the game that takes every single sin that culminated to the 2016 video game market and committed it all in one giant fell soul-crushing swoop was Street Fighter V. And that's not one that people bitch about a lot, but I have a lot to say about it. I know, right? Because here's the thing. We got bad porting, we got shameless DLC whoring, we've got dishonest marketing, we've got deliberate oversimplification in order to ratchet it in a broader audience, and you can't find another game out there that committed literally all of those quite to the degree that Street Fighter V did. For starters, Street Fighter V comes off a franchise that, if you include all the little mobile spin-offs and all the arcade spin-offs, there's hundreds of Street Fighter games. There's easily triple digits. So they've established their market. They came in and they established hey, we have a fandom here that is rich in a very, very long, decade-long history. We have fans that expect a very, very competitive, high technicality experience with high difficulty, high risk reward. And we are going to release our total penultimate version, Street Fighter V, the culmination of everything. And not only was it when it first came out, was it stripped absolutely bare? Did it have half of the iconic characters you would expect? And it put it just brazenly upon release date. It's hey, here you go. Here's your other iconic characters behind a paywall. That's insulting. That's bogus, and it shouldn't have happened.
Day one
DLC, all over the place for characters that people would have expected, in the base game and beyond. And they charged $60 for this game. It wasn't worth $60. If it was a freeware game and with the DLC characters, maybe. But it wasn't. It was a $60 game that gave half the game that they expected. It didn't port to PC well. The PC port was garbage. PC, you got to play it on with a controller on PC, otherwise you have no chance. The DLC hoarding, obviously, Fallout did a bit of that. There's been a bunch of other, games that did that, but literally day one DLC for content that people expected. That's bad news. And then the idea that literally their whole crux, literally the entire platform for Street Fighter, is the fact that it's a very complex, ultra high skill threshold competitive multiplayer fighting game, and they weren't even able to deliver that. They oversimplified it. Combos were not as big of a factor. There were easy exploits. I think it was the worst game of 2015. I think it committed every sin that you could in 2016. Was it talked about as much? No, because it just wasn't the hot button. But I think it was trash. It was really bad.
Okay. All right, Laura, what was the worst game of 2016?
All right, mine's actually a little bit of a difficult argument. And contrary to a video
Which I commend you for making, because I've only done that so far.
This is funny because this game also made our top 10 geeky things of 2016, but I'm going to argue the opposite. Pokemon Go. I'm going to say Pokemon Go was the worst game on my list. And it's for a few reasons. It was so amazingly popular even before it came out. Everyone was really excited for it, hyped for it, awesome commercials and stuff. It came out, there was so many people playing that the servers just crashed constantly. So you'd go out with your friends trying to catch these Pokemon and you can't connect. Your friend, maybe, and then you're sitting there and you're walking around aimlessly, not able to catch your Pokemon. Took a while for that to get fixed. And then if you compare it to the original source material, the anime, and also the games, you are supposed to be building a friendship with these Pokemon that you're catching. That's kind of an ironic thing to say. You're supposed to be taking care of these Pokemon. They're your friends, your pets, whatever, you're caring for these. But with this Pokemon Go game, it was so amazingly basic. All you're doing is you're catching this Pokemon, you're discarding them, or you're pumping them with steroids, aka candy, and you're fighting them. And it's like, well, where's the heart of what originally the Pokemon story was? Why is this not part of it? On top of that, they are charging people to buy things. People spent so much money to buy these extra things, wanting to have incubators and a backpack to hold more Pokeballs, and it's taking all this money that these people don't really need to spend on it. And I was expecting it to be more than what it was. People are wanting to have that relationship, which they kind of tried to fix with the buddy Pokemon with one of their recent updates. I felt that was not a very good attempt, personally. And on top of that, for some reason, playing this game just made people dumber. I'm gonna say it made people dumber. There were so many stories of people walking out into the middle of the street, getting stuck in trees, walking off of a freaking cliff. Why? I thought we were smarter than this. And so it certain places were banning it. I know, it was just out so often. People playing it at work, playing it at school, playing it in their cars. And I personally know friends who take longer at work, mechanics, who take longer doing their test drives with their cars because they're trying to go to Pokestops while they're out before they come back to work on the car. Personally, my husband went through a phase where he was not coming home for a few hours because he was at Old Sac playing Pokemon Go. And we went to the state fair and everybody was on it instead of sitting there, enjoying the rides or the galleries. I just felt like this game was taking life out of your life. And I'm just not only is the game not what it should be, but it's also destroying our lives at the same time.
All right. Cool.
Society's coming on
Chris.
unwound at the cracks.
What do you think was the worst game of 2016?
So, I'm going to say No Man's Sky was the biggest disappointment, the worst game of 2016 because it was the biggest disappointment. I'm going to define worst in my definition here as expectations versus reality. So I would say that people went in with No Man's Sky with the biggest hypes because Sean, the creator, had been promising everybody the moon, and then it got delayed, and then there were changes. And by the time it finally came out, it was a hollow shell of this once glorious idea. So the three big things that they ended up changing after doing some research on a very popular Reddit thread that compiled a million things, but the three really big, massive ones was the first is there was a loss of planetary physics. So basically, originally, all of the different planets were supposed to have different levels of gravity, way different physics, and that got changed, and they were all pretty much more or less the same. Second thing was there was supposed to be a ton of different classes of ships, different styles, which would have meant lots of different gameplay options. That was another thing that got changed. Basically, all the ships were more or less the same aside from cosmetic features. There wasn't any big differences in classes. The last thing is resources were completely changed as far as the redistribution goes. So there were supposed to be tons of different complex resources. They even said that they were inspired by Minecraft, where they were going to have tons and tons and tons of different things. They were going to have a very thriving economy where players were going to have to trade with each other. And then that was another thing that got cut. So the resources ended up being, for more or less, very similar. They weren't that hard to get. You didn't have to do that much trading. So ultimately, the reason why I think it was the worst is because there was a ton of hype. Everybody was really excited about it, and then either they couldn't deliver because they made too many promises or they got lazy. Who knows? But they took a great game and they basically turned it into Spore.
Okay.
That's the last time something that terrible happened. So No Man's Sky is the new Spore because of massive disappointments.
All right, I only need to hear one thing. Laura, what makes your game better than Chris's? Don't worry.
You mean worse than Chris's?
I'm sorry. That's what I mean. Why is
I was
your
like,
game
what?
Can we just defend ourselves on the wrong question?
Why is your argument better than Chris's? Sorry, why is your game worse last year than Chris's?
I feel like it's worse because people take it with them everywhere.
Wouldn't that be a sign that it's engrossing?
It's well. On top of that, sorry, I forgot to also say, players actually drastically dropped too. They lost like 80% of their players after a few months.
Oh, every argument here lost a ton of
Chris,
players.
is your game worse
absolutely.
than Pokemon Go?
Yes, absolutely. Because Pokemon Go, I'll make the complete opposite thing. It didn't make people worse. People bonded and had fun with Pokemon Go. Everybody would go out and you'd meet strangers, and
It's the
Laura
only video game in
basically
history to
pulled the old
drive real-world traffic.
The grandma argument that kids are playing video games and it's distracting them from enjoying the real world.
Okay.
Pokemon was a really great game. True, it fizzled out quick, but it didn't have all. Nobody really knew what they were going to get.
Every game here is disappointing.
All right.
That's not the point.
But
I think we can all
Garrett's-
agree that
That was
every
difficult
game
round.
I have
here.
something to say about Garrett's. Nobody cared about Street Fighter.
No. That's actually okay. Here's the thing. The reason why I only
Everybody
asked you
cared
guys
about it.
because you guys were actually at the bottom. I was, and I wanted to hear what else you guys had to say because Garrett came up with some beautiful reasons
did.
on why. Here's the thing. Not many of you guys know that Street Fighter is actually my favorite fighting series because I grew up with Super Nintendo.
I pulled a Chris on this one.
Super
Yeah,
Nintendo was my
Whipped
favorite
out
console.
something
job with those
near
two
and I
games.
grew Richie here.
And I'm not saying I'm being biased about it. I'm just saying I can understand that there's a huge community of Street Fighter fans. In fact, when you go to video game tournaments, often Street Fighter is the premier fighting game, either above, equal, or just right below Smash
Street Fighter
Brothers.
tournaments are
It's like-
so lit.
yeah,
They're so out of control
so
lit.
Street Fighter is a big deal, guys, and that was a huge disappointment. You guys, you were kind of close, but I just didn't hear enough of I heard reasons why it was disappointing to you guys and with your friends. Garrett gave me a whole lot more of why it was disappointing to the world.
Just bad for the industry.
And just bad for the video
Not that
game industry,
everything
and
here
also
wasn't bad for the
It puts a
industry.
huge shame on like DLC and everything. It was just bad. So it came down to I wanted you to
Well played.
see.
You pulled me. You tapped into something.
So yeah,
Richard
Garrett
was
wins this
in.
round.
Very clever.
So
Very
Jackie,
clever.
was there
Stole my
anything
strategy
in that
there.
round?
Yeah, I searched through.
You need to
a
ask her
lot.
before you declare your winner.
No. Here's the thing. I don't always need to if I've got a winner.
Well, this is gonna
What if I made up
Garrett's
everything?
argument.
Doesn't matter. You had a great argument.
Yeah, Garrett would
This
have won.
supports you anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I sifted through a ton of articles, and they were all so pretentious. They had things like Soda Drinker Pro on the list, that obscure things that you would never heard of. And so finally, sifting through all that garbage, I finally found one of all three of your games on one list, and it was Street Fighter V. And it was number 2.
Okay.
Wow.
We'll beat up.
What was number 1?
Not allowed to say.
Oh, okay.
I feel like most popular to Chris's credit, I should say. I feel like a lot of the journalistic side of video gaming really, really dumped on No Man's Sky. And I feel like it was kind of unfair. Because No Man's Sky created a visual engine that had literally never been done before. And it will go super underappreciated because it was marketed
It was overhyped.
It was marketed like hot garbage.
It was
It
overhyped.
was There was
I
absolutely
but
no plan there.
I think everybody was definitely disappointed. Everything was overhyped, in my opinion. All three of these.
2016 just had a lot of hype that didn't need to happen.
Here we are.
Sorry.
We just finished round 4. We're about to start round 5. Right now it is
comments from Pokemon Go.
Laura is in the lead with 2 points. Garrett and Chris each have 1 point.
Oh,
so
man,
Laura,
so if one of us wins, and Laura's definitely going.
yeah,
to-
Laura is
Right,
definitely
yeah.
going to the
No.
speed
First
round.
round.
Laura,
Just
Laura-
winning the first 2 questions.
If
And-
Laura wins this round, will all 3 of them go?
then Rich will have to make a determination
Then
of what happens next.
That's
They'll do
there-
their
there's
own.
gonna be
They'll
a,
do
there's
their
gonna
own
be-
lightning round.
Yeah, there's going to be a question
Speed
between
round.
the 2 of them real quick.
Oh.
If that's the case. Anyways, let's go right into round 5 here
All right.
and get this over with. All right, so round 5. Guys, what is the best video game of all time?
This is
But I do
such
urge
a
you,
damn
I
question.
know
Oh
this
my
is such a
God.
huge thing, but I do urge you to give me your answers, brief as you can make it.
Brief.
That's right.
We're going to
Round
answer the vaguest,
5.
most iconic,
this-
tough question of the entire night as quick as possible.
That's right, and it starts with Laura.
All
Okay.
right, so my favorite game, my best video game of all time, I said would be Tetris. It's been around for a very long time. It came out in 1984, and I chose this because it's one of those games that I think will always be enjoyed. We will always sit down and play it. It can be a 1-player, it can be a 2-player. You can play it on almost any type of device. You can get it on your phone, any kind of game console, computers. You can even get it on like calculators. I know there are versions of calculators that have it. So it will always be there for you to play. And on top of that, it's a puzzle game. So it's good for your mind. It will teach you and make you better. That was a very brief version.
Okay, Chris.
Ocarina of Time. Ratings, 99 out of 100 on Metacritic, 98% on Game Rankings. Great critic appeal. Fan appeal. It sold 150 million copies in 1998. One game of the year in 1998. 2.5 million copies, 150 million pre-orders. So on the meta side, it was very successful among fans, very successful among critics. The game itself has beautiful music. It was paradigm shifting as far as platformers go. True, Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie came out a little bit earlier, but I feel like most epic 3D games nowadays, especially anything in the mythical realm, a la Skyrim or anything else of that nature, all kind of borrow elements from Zelda. They were trailblazers. They really set the stage for platforming. Great music. Koji Kondo, arguably the second best video game composer of all time after Nobuo Uematsu. I did my homework on that. And then, aside from that, just amazing plot. I think Zelda, the thing that was great about Zelda is I think it was one of the first games where people really, really got lost in the game. You felt like you were inside this giant world. It was massive, and it's impressive that they were able to fit that much on a cartridge. Many people consider it, it was good. It was a very good game. But I think the other thing is it holds up really well too. It's one of those games where even though the graphics are, a little dated, it's still a game where you can go back and still feel like you're in that magical world, and really they did a good job with the environment. So overall, in all aspects, paradigm shifting, great ratings among fans and critics, great music, nostalgia. It's the pinnacle of like a medieval fantasy adventure game.
Okay. Garrett, what's the best game of all time? This is a big one, guys.
Yeah, it is, which is tough to answer in a short amount of time. But you know what? I'm going to take a swing at it. I'm going to take I will make the claim that Mass Effect 2 is the best game that's ever been made. And I'm going to borrow a nice word that I heard Chris say a few times. That's paradigm shifting, because I think Mass Effect 2's relationship with the gaming world was very paradigm shifting. Because prior to really the Mass Effect series, but especially the second one, you had a lot of games that were good. We've had beautiful storytelling in the art form forever. It's always benefited from that. But here's a game that for the first time you were really, really in control of your own destiny. in a way that completely had transcended other previous attempts at it. The plot was relatable and identifiable to an extent, but there were dozens and dozens and dozens, almost I would argue maybe over 100 times that you could step in and influence the game in a really meaningful way. In a really, really, really meaningful way, you could step in. And the idea that 3 of us could play through Mass Effect 2 right now, and every single one of us would have a compelling, engaging, good experience, and every single one of us would tell a different story of how it went. There's something crazy compelling about that. And it's never been done as good since. Certainly not by Mass Effect 3. But Mass Effect 2 was, I think of it as it was BioWare's crown jewel. Very much so. It was the pinnacle of good storytelling. It was the pinnacle of BioWare's adaptable plotline, and it was the first time that we see all these things come in, even to the effect that they included, you could load in your Mass Effect 1 save games, and if you had killed Grunt, he wouldn't be there in Mass Effect 2. That's nuts! No one's ever done anything like that before or since. And now all of a sudden we see a very adaptable claim towards a player driving an influence in their own plot. We see that everywhere in the industry, and I claim it's because of Mass Effect 2. Done.
Okay. Laura, what makes Tetris better than Mass Effect 2?
Tetris is available to be played by anyone of almost any age and will most likely be around for a very long time.
Are you saying that that's also why it's better than Ocarina of Time?
Yes.
Okay. So that is your defense, is that it is versatility. It has
it's a classic. It's like I said, it's more available to anyone.
Okay. And Chris, why is Ocarina of Time better than Tetris?
Yeah, I've got answers for that. Tetris is for filthy casuals who only want to play for a few seconds. It's boring after a few minutes, and after you've played it once, you never want to do it again.
Not true.
And
hey, at the end of the day, Tetris is like our grandpa,
I'm not
dude.
done yet. And now Mass Effect 2 got a 94 on Metacritic for PC, and I got a 96 on Xbox 360, so critics liked it better. Got Ocarina of Time as a 99, so critically it did better. Other reason, you talked about how Mass Effect 2 was great because it brought
They
all the
didn't have
stuff
Mass Effect to
Mass
score
Effect 1.
The other one, though.
Mass Effect 3 ruins Mass Effect 2 because all this amazing plot, all this destiny gets completely shat on because of how linear things get in Mass Effect 3. So, I would
only
say
the last 20 minutes of Mass Effect 3?
Your point would have been good, except they tripped on the finish line in Mass Effect 3, and I don't think that if you're going to say that Mass Effect 2 is so great because of what it brought in by Mass Effect 1, I don't think you can escape.
If I was arguing the Mass Effect franchise...
You can't.
If I was arguing the Mass Effect franchise...
But Ocarina of Time is self-contained. Once you finish the game, you get the closure.
Mass Effect 2 can be self-contained because literally one ending in Mass Effect 2 is everybody dies. Everybody dies.
His choice of
in one
2
outcome.
doesn't mean he's choosing 3.
But you want the satisfaction of getting complete closure.
Maybe you
of
want.
the plot.
Maybe you do.
You don't get it.
For you, maybe.
You don't get it.
For you, maybe.
Okay, maybe for
I feel like you're projecting a little bit right now, Mr. Mueller.
The average gamer would need it. But again.
Maybe I wanted to kill everyone.
All right, maybe you did.
Can you finish Ocarina of Time with everyone dead in a way that makes logistical sense? Because I can finish my game.
I can finish Ocarina of Time.
Play my
and
Tetris.
I can finish Ocarina of Time and not have a sour taste in my mouth, knowing it's going to be shit.
I didn't even
when
need
I
to
get
ask
to
Derek
Mass
because
Effect
he already
3.
started going. All right. I'm going to take it over to Derek. This is a real tough one. This is the last round.
It's the most subjective question, too.
Yeah. All right.
It is the most emotionally charged subjective question.
Let's go to facts first, actually. Jackie, what facts do you have?
So, I looked on various lists.
Sorry, I think we're doing notes.
What are the notes, Derek?
It's okay.
I looked on various lists, and all 3 of yours have been number 1 on some list on the internet. So, I mean...
You guys pick good games.
We're smart, guys.
I love all these games.
Smart and informed.
I have nothing factual other than just pointing out fallacies and arguments. So I'll give it back to you, Rich.
All right.
Is that not valuable?
I might be.
Was there one person that stood out to you?
I think a huge part of it was there was 2, which doesn't help your decision. But the part of the problem with having 2 of the arguments be based around like a franchise more than a game, which was unfortunate.
Chris made that my argument. That wasn't my argument.
No, but I know. But
I tried
to
it against
defend
you
that.
because you were talking about the pros of
so
one.
rooted into a game like that. Same thing with Zelda. Those ended up being huge
Factors.
franchises. Those ended up being huge. So it kind of just takes away from the nature of like it being the best game ever. I think the best game ever by far is Snake, which you play on your phone. That's by far the best game.
That was good too.
But that was the only downside I saw in either of the arguments.
Gee, this is tough.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
You picked the question.
I will say,
Alvarez.
although this doesn't affect you for the speed round, Laura, I will say that I just wasn't feeling Tetris from you.
Well, it really came down to me and Garrett are really trying to get into that final bonus round.
Here's the
Do
thing.
we need to do a tiebreaker or something, Richie?
You know, you guys
Because
both.
if we made equal arguments,
Here's the thing. You guys both really told me like why Ocarina of Time and Mass Effect like they have lasting appeal and how they both of these games changed the video game industry. I don't think anybody's doubting that. So it really comes down to the arguments. Of course, it's always going to come down to the arguments.
Question so subjective.
So Garrett, you made a lot of good points that this is the first time that you could, even more so, way more so than the first Mass Effect, that you could get behind the character and actually like do things you couldn't do before. Chris also made excellent arguments. Ocarina of Time really changed the way that people like looked. I mean, unless you're a huge nerd like me with Final Fantasy, Ocarina of Time was the first time that most people like looked at a video game soundtrack and they were like, oh shit, like this is really good.
Oh shit, yeah.
Best music and he also did say that and also Chris did come up with the Chris facts. Again,
the Wikipedia, Metacritic ratings.
Yeah. And he did bring, and here's the thing, again, based on the arguments, Chris did bring up the thing about Mass Effect 3, and I know that we're talking about, we're talking about single games here, but we're saying best game of all time, meaning that game has to transcend beyond our own time period. So Mass Effect 2, again, because you didn't fire back with like, but Twilight Princess and but Skyward Sword wasn't, you didn't come at him with like future Zelda stuff.
I've literally played no Zelda.
I haven't even touched Mass Effect.
but here's the thing. But
I just heard Richie bitch about some stuff.
Chris knew
again.
People in because I was one of them. The Mass Effect 3.
I did have a friend spend an hour explaining the whole plot of Mass Effect, and it wasn't Richie.
And again, I'm not. Again,
that sounds like something Richie would do.
Chris brought this up, and you didn't fire because if you had been like, but Twilight Princess wasn't nearly the thing. It totally. Then I would have been like, okay, now you're back to even. But he
is
did
Twilight
bring up,
Princess in this timeline?
No, but I mean, as far as like hurting the franchise reputation.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a lot of people love Twilight Princess, and that's fine. But for some of us older people, it's like it's not as good as Ocarina of Time. So I'm saying like you could have brought up something like he brought up Mass Effect 3, and again for some people, me included, I don't touch Mass Effect anymore because of Mass Effect 3. It ruined the whole thing for me. So he brought that up. Mass Effect 3
DLC, it's not so
kind
bad.
of
left
ruined.
a sour taste in your mouth.
It really did kind of be like, okay, I guess they didn't know what they were doing this whole time, or at least they made a bad decision at the end. And again, if you had thrown Twilight Princess or something at Chris, that could have been like, okay, well, Ocarina of Time was great, but these games ruined it. Like you didn't fire back the way that I wanted you to. So, unfortunately for you, I got to go with Chris. He just had the better
To
argument.
say some nice things about Garrett, I thought you were going to win there for a sec because you did a really good job talking about some of the unique things that Mass Effect did.
It was a good game.
I felt like I didn't.
I think it was the best game.
I didn't quite push. I felt like my argument. I spent a little bit more time tearing you down than building my own argument up. But
That's
I really
okay.
liked,
It
I really
worked
liked
because
Mass Effect.
now-
It worked.
It was a great game. I do want to play some.
Okay, over with that round. Derek, what's up? Speed round. Speed round.
Hey, guess who doesn't have to do the speed round? Woohoo!
You get to help me pick the winners of the speed round.
Okay.
Oh no!
Here we go.
I'm getting
All
that
right.
feeling again.
So again, excellent. By the way, before we get into excellent job, everyone. You
That was
guys
fun.
definitely came, prepared. I appreciate that and
Just had to wait
everything.
for all those Nintendo games to come up. All this
And
Uncharted
Garrett,
stuff.
that just means that you'll come back again another time, and you'll be even more prepared, right?
You strike me down now. I'll come back more
Garrett's like, I'm never
powerful
coming
than
back
ever.
again.
Primary objective, win the game. Secondary objective, shit on Chris.
Tertiary objective, stab Richie in the back for judging you wrong.
Ooh.
Please don't do that.
What an awesome pilot. Look at how much drama we're setting up.
All right, here we go. Speed round.
All right.
So the way the speed round works, Derek's going to be on his phone. He is going to set the timer for 20 seconds. I'm going to start with Well, actually, sorry. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to ask you guys a question, and you have to wait until I'm completely done asking these questions. Most of these questions are going to be like a pick this or pick that, so you really have to wait until I'm completely done before you shout out your answer.
Is it one at a time?
We're doing one question at a time. So listen. So whoever shouts out their answer first. So I'm going to give you an example.
It's not one at a time.
Here's an example question.
You're asking both of us a question, or both
yeah, exactly. Here's what I'm saying. Like, for example, what was a better Sonic game? Sonic Unleashed or Sonic and Knuckles? Sonic and Knuckles! It's like, I heard Chris first, so he goes first. All right, so that's an example.
And we explain.
Yeah, and then he gets 20 seconds, and then you would get 20 seconds to explain the one that you didn't shout out if you didn't shout out first. And then Chris will get a 10-second rebuttal, and you'll get a 10-second rebuttal. So let's just get into this. Ready, Derek?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And if we get the same game, then we go for
I
argument.
hope that there's no questions on
Okay.
games I've never played.
So speed round question number 1.
Wait. Clarify.
What's up?
If Chris picks one answer, and that's also her answer, do we go on arguments, or does
Whoever
she
shouted it first.
does
gets
she then have to argue the
She
opposite?
does. She has to.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you guys
have to
cannot argue the same answer then. That's
right.
an
You
important
have to
distinction.
argue the one that you couldn't shout out first.
You're going to lose.
Yeah, speed rounds are tough, guys. Okay, so speed round question number 1. 2 franchise killers are in the bargain bin at GameStop. Which do you buy? Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts or Duke Nukem Forever?
Nuts and bolts.
Okay, so Chris has picked Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
God.
And Laura, you have to defend Duke Nukem Forever.
I would have picked Duke Nukem Forever. So anyway, continue.
All right, so Chris, why would you buy? And again, it starts when he starts talking.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Chris, you're buying Nuts and Bolts. Why?
All right. So the reason that I would buy Nuts and Bolts is because even though the game is complete shit, at least you get to look at some pretty stuff. That was the one redeeming factor in that whole game. The worlds look pretty. So it's the kind of game where you can pick it up, kind of listen to some nice Banjo-Kazooie music, look at some pretty worlds.
You can finish the sentence, I believe.
No, that's it.
No,
if he trails up a little bit, it would add a couple seconds to Laura's, That's to be fair. All right, so, Laura, why Duke Nukem Forever?
Duke Nukem Forever because it sounds really badass and cool, and I would totally sit down and play this game for hours because it sounds cool. Yeah.
I think I misunderstood the question actually at first. It's the one. You're picking the least bad one. That was it, right?
So
You got 2 terrible
the question
games.
was-
what's the more redeeming?
yeah, the question
I got it right
which
then.
one do you buy because
Okay,
it's the
yeah,
better
yeah,
one,
yeah.
So, Chris, you get 10 seconds as soon as he starts talking.
What's my?
You're rebuttaling what she said.
Unless you want.
Oh.
So basically, she's saying she's gonna pick up Duke Nukem because it just sounds like the cooler game. All right. So now you're gonna be okay. So you get 10 seconds. All right. You have to rebuttal.
Banjo-Kazooie. I gave a reason. You have pretty things to look at.
I gave a reason.
Looks pretty cool is not a reason.
All right. So that one, okay.
This is why this round scares me.
All right, that one was pretty easy. Remember, we're going to whoever gets 6 points first. Okay, so that one, it was Chris, so now it's actually 3 with Chris and 2 points for Laura. All right, so here is the second speed round question. Boom. All right.
Nathan Drake. No. Okay,
I'm pretty sure they
Give her
wouldn't
the
do that.
point.
I didn't even need your help with that one because it was obvious. All right. All right, number 2. For the rest of your life, you can only play games from one of these series. Pick one. Mario or Zelda?
Mario.
Zelda.
All right, 20 seconds.
That went predictably. Anyway,
For
you're
Laura.
first though.
Mario has it's Mario just in general or is it one game?
His whole. Sorry. Let's start over.
Sorry.
Let's clarify. It's you can only
whole
play
franchise.
games from one of these series. So you can play all the games from just this one series.
All Mario
franchise.
games,
That's
all
right.
Zelda
Okay.
games.
Okay. Okay. I would go with Mario because there's such a huge variety of types of games that come in the Mario franchise. There's the typical side scroller. There's the racing. You can play against friends. And there's so many different things that you can play depending on your mood, by yourself, with friends. It just seems like it would be.
All right. Chris, 20 seconds.
Clarify, are you playing by yourself or with friends?
You can say what it just says. You can only play one game.
You. Okay, great.
Once series.
So,
the rest of your
then I
life.
would say Zelda, because quality over quantity, even though Mario has more games, Mario games tend to be more fun. All the spin-offs are multiplayer. Zelda, you get satisfying plots and stories, so you'll have more satisfaction because you get a good story because you're playing by yourself.
Okay, 10-second rebuttal for Laura.
I wonder if you could technically...
What? No, not Garrett, Laura.
Thanks.
I wonder if you could... Okay. No. All right.
That sounds like a really very lonely life playing by yourself. I would rather play with friends on all the Mario games.
Oh. Time!
Okay, 10-second for Chris.
He said you, not your friends, so I assume you're playing by yourself. But even if you weren't, you'd still be getting satisfying plot.
Okay. All right, so Garrett, what do you think brought the best arguments?
Well, there's kind of two dynamics at play here. There's the argument there's the one I would pick, and I agree with, and then there's the better argument.
Okay, yeah, but we're based on the arguments, based on who gave the better arguments.
I don't know.
I don't think we can trust him now.
I think I'm gonna give it to the Mario side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Derek,
Because
and Jackie?
that's really compelling. Just the notion that you shoehorn yourself into single player for the rest of your life.
Fat cam's on.
Okay, Derek, who do you pick?
I just like listening to Garrett talk.
So
Paper.
was there a strong winner based on the arguments? Was there a strong winner for you?
Yeah, by far Mario.
Mario. Okay, Jackie.
All
All
right.
right. All right. Sorry, Chris. I'm also
That's
going
okay.
with
Yeah.
Mario.
I'll give you that one. No,
Rich picked Mario!
All right.
That's why I chose Mario as the franchise and that other one.
Here's question number 3. You can pick anything after I ask this question.
Anything.
Why do you Mario?
Okay. Question number 3.
That's a weird.
Best gaming snack. Pick anything.
Sour Patch.
Sour Patch Kids.
What up?
Best gaming snack.
I will
Beef
judge.
jerky.
Beef jerky. So it's Sour Patch Kids versus beef jerky. All right, Sour Patch Kids. Why is that the best gaming snack? 20 seconds. Go.
First of all, it's vegan, so I can eat it. It's gummy, which everybody loves gummies, and it's sour and then it's sweet, and you can just keep eating it. And I like to eat it with soda sometimes, and it tastes really good.
Time. Okay. Chris, 20 seconds. Why is beef jerky the best gaming snack?
Beef jerky has protein in it, so it gives you all of your essential amino acids. Also, doesn't have sticky sugariness, so you don't have to get up and wash your hands constantly because you're eating Sour Patch Kids. If you're getting the standard regular kind, not the weird froofy teriyaki, I'm talking standard non-sticky.
That's a long 20 seconds. All right, so a 10-second rebuttal from Laura. Why is he wrong?
Because sweet stuff is really good. It tastes better.
Guess what? I don't even need to ask. Chris won that round.
You know, I'm
The
surprised.
sugar thing, I was like, oh,
Man,
darn it.
Laura, you should have kept fighting it. You kind of happy with the vegan thing because everybody can enjoy Sour
Yeah,
Patch
everybody
Kids.
can.
I was
Also-
gonna say Chris.
Well, that's
pick
what I
something
was
that's
like.
good
I
for
was like,
him,
well,
but-
I can't eat jerky, but like I was also thinking like other people too.
Oh,
can.
diabetic.
Complex-
I wish.
And I was
Complex
like,
sugars.
I
Complex
wish you had
sugars,
defended
though,
that
give you a
point
more
a little bit
twitchy
more. Why it's better for everyone, but unfortunately, I feel like you gave up.
Well,
a little
he
bit.
totally got me though with the sugar thing. I was like,
Beef
that's
jerky,
a good point.
beef jerky
Like, I've
is
always had
denser. It
that
makes you more
napkin.
tired. You can't stay up
You know, I'm
as well.
surprised nobody.
Moving on.
After I said that, you could have got me with toothpicks because you have to stop
Moving
taking
on.
the jerky out of your teeth.
Shut up. All right, question number 4. Pick one. Better gaming experience: PC or console?
Also,
I want you to know that my friendship with a few of you hangs on what happens
So
next.
Laura has said console. Chris, you decided to laugh instead of shout one out.
PC.
All right, so Laura, 20 seconds. Why is console the better gaming experience?
because I get to sit on my couch and watch on my big TV, and I don't have to sit slouched over a computer on a table where I'm hurting my back and need to always get up and stretch. I can just sit and relax while I'm playing this game.
Okay. And that's it. Sometimes I don't need 20 seconds, you know? All right, so Chris, 20 seconds, why is PC the better gaming experience?
Competitive. Overwatch competitive. If you want to actually aim and click, it's a snap click with a mouse instead of with a controller. And all the super hardcore competitive players in a franchise like Overwatch are on PC. Also, you can upgrade a PC, you can't upgrade a console. So, cost effective.
Okay, 10 seconds, Laura?
I actually really like the console because I don't have to constantly update my PC. I don't have to update my console. I don't have to spend more money to change things out. It's already right there. It gets updates as things are needed.
10 second, Chris.
Games tend to be cheaper on PC with Steam sales, so you are saving a little bit of money. And also with PCs, you probably already have a PC.
Okay.
This is hard.
I have a winner in mind, but I'm going to ask Garrett, what do you think?
Chris brought up none of the things that I would have brought up, so I'm a little mad.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. If you hadn't laughed, would you have picked consoles?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, never mind. You're right.
Because that would
All right.
that would make you guys biased.
So
Yeah, right.
Garrett's mad. Derek, Jack, do you guys have an opinion?
I can't believe I'm voting for the console.
It's all right. We'll cry about it later.
No, my personal opinions are getting into the way too much. I can't.
Okay, Derek?
I'm so salty. You didn't mention anything about the PC that's worth mentioning.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. So based on the arguments, as far as when Laura was explaining like on the bed and just relax and everything, I got a better visual of what that gaming experience was like. Chris, you took me to a trip to Best Buy with your argument, so and yeah,
Mr. shitting on me wanted to use an Xbox controller on Overwatch, but
all right. So here we go. It's 4-4.
But that's fair because I play more console games than PC, so I would have picked a console.
Actually, what did I say at the beginning? Did I say best of 6? It's actually best of 5. All right.
Yeah,
so we are all tied up, by the way.
Oh, shoot.
What's the score now? 4-4?
4-4.
Oh, wait, is this the last one?
This is the last one. The winner of this round will win.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Oh wait. No, you're right. Sorry. This is the last question.
Wait, what?
All right.
Oh, wait!
It's all tied up. It's 4-4. This is the last question. Question number 5.
Close all the way.
So,
Good job.
imagine if you will, you're at E3 2017 later this year. You only have 1 hour. Do you spend it at the Sony area or the Microsoft area?
Sony.
Microsoft.
Okay, I heard Sony from Laura first. And 20 seconds, why Sony?
First of all, I don't play PC and I don't play Xbox. So all of my game and all my gaming interest is with Sony because I have the PS4. So all the games in that area are going to be for what I want to play. And usually the games that I want to play end up always being on PC and not the other consoles anyways. Plus they also have, other...
Okay, 20 seconds, Chris. Microsoft, why?
I'll mention the things I should have mentioned because Microsoft is going to be next to the PC stuff. You're going to get 4K or 10K or whatever K they have, 60 frames per second, and the games are going to look sharper there. Assuming Microsoft branching over to the PC side, not the Xbox side, because their consoles aren't as good.
Okay. 10-second rebuttal from Laura.
I lost what I was going to say.
So should we start the time over?
I haven't started.
Oh, it doesn't start until she starts talking.
Yeah, totally.
No, like I legit, it's gone.
Well, I mean, you have to rebuttal to what Chris. So Chris just said that he would go because all the great advancements Microsoft has in most of their computer, but he did say that their
Resolution.
PCs, their PCs are better than their consoles. Do you have anything to say to any of that, like poo-poo on that, or what does Sony do better?
Nope.
No. Okay, Chris, then you get 10 seconds to just add to your point.
In addition, there will be more games available on PC because that's kind of the future of gaming. We're pushing it to go PC because you don't get this BS console and a half crap.
Time!
Okay. So Chris got his rebuttal. So I'll give you one last chance, Laura. Do you want to rebuttal?
Sony's cooler.
Okay.
No.
All right. Garrett, what did you think?
Did I start to hit on your PC Master Race?
Yeah, but you were trying too hard. You just threw out some buzzwords and looked at me like you were clever.
Right?
4K, 60 frames per second. Also, could I reference our fact checker even though she just put the laptop away? I am not sure to what extent because a lot of Chris's argument was there's a big PC presence in the Microsoft E3 sector. I actually don't think there's much PC presence at all.
There is.
Yeah, we've been there.
Really? Yeah. I don't think I was under the impression that they were getting
I
upstairs.
don't know why they wouldn't.
Really?
Yeah, they
I
had,
just
like-
thought they were like, Halo.
Well, they have dozens of PCs lined up. You can play Overwatch and stuff. Like, yeah, there's a big PC presence.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Microsoft is a big part of that.
Well, Laura, I'm like,
I'm a little disappointed in myself right now.
you should have. There was he gave you some ammunition to fire out, and you didn't.
I'm going to go to the fact.
Yeah, I'm a
real
little
quick.
undecided. So let's see if they can sway me one way or another with my vote.
Because here's the thing where I'm thinking, just to give you some fuel. Chris, got more time, but Laura really had me with her first.
Actually,
argument.
yeah, that
With her
first argument
part.
with Laura sold me.
As unfortunate as it is, I don't really care what you play at home. You're arguing your point. I was hoping for a broader argument towards why I should spend my time in Sony. I have no idea what's going on in Sony. I would have been more interested to hear some of the factual stuff. But then again, Chris didn't mention any of that either.
So in your opinion,
I think
neither of
it-
them argued the point well.
Yes.
Chris's argument was he plays PC. Laura's argument was she plays Sony.
I think where we're at least I'm getting lost in this is that I'm like, well, I'm going to do this, but then I'm like, well, how am I going to make this sound better? Like, why should other people do this? And I'm like, well, I keep forgetting that this is why am I better spent in this versus this.
Or why is it
I keep forgetting
objectively
it's about
better?
me, like defending my reasoning.
Jackie.
So, the only thing that I would say is that the PC section is not in the Microsoft ecosystem.
Ooh. All right, guys. Well, I have to make a decision, and
So another tiebreaker, huh?
This is where a live
nope.
audience would
I'm going with Laura. Laura wins. Sometimes you just have to make a decision. All right.
Really,
well-
technically, you did say in the beginning that your decision was the only
That's
one that would
right.
matter.
Okay.
So that is fair. You did say in the beginning.
All right, this has
you
been an excellent first episode of Video Game Fights. I'm so excited.
Actually, that was pretty riveting. That was pretty dope.
So
I knew
excited we
as
finally
soon
did
as you
this.
said Sony, you totally won because I was like, Microsoft doesn't have any good games.
Yeah.
Richie hates Halo. Every game Richie loves is on Sony. So
It's true.
I had to go hardware because that was my only hope.
I am biased towards Sony, but I didn't let that influence me because that's why it was so hard of a decision to make. But yeah, this was a really thank you guys so much for coming out here and playing this. Thank
That's
you
a tough
to
game.
Derek and Jackie for being.
That's a tough
back
game.
and
That was
backs
that
and-
was.
Anyways, so where can we find you, Gary? You want to shoot out some social media?
You can find me mostly on his social media. Other than that, I have this is for real. I have a spanning career as a martial artist, but that
Doesn't apply to the internet.
doesn't really
Sorry.
apply to the internet. That's nothing that you wouldn't find on his social media anyway. So find me at Rich Alvarez social media.
Laura, you want to pitch some stuff?
You can actually find me on all of my Oblivion comics and coffee stuff. So our
Links below.
Links will
below.
be
Yeah.
Oblivion comics.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
All right,
And
Chris.
you can find me in 11 and a half, whatever it is, years of Rich Alvarez videos on YouTube. The entirety of Super Mario. All my social media is.
It'd be pretty surprising if you didn't know who he was. at
It's the
this
same
point.
as Richie's.
Or where to find
So
him.
there you go.
Derek, you got anything?
I got nothing.
Jackie?
I'm the Princess of Sarasaland.
All right. And I am, of course, Rich Alvarez. You can find me at youtube.com/Rich Alvarez and Instagram.com/Rich Malvarez. I had to put the M in there. It is my middle initial because some jerk took Rich Alvarez.
Yeah, he's been complaining about it for 10 years.
Please follow me on Instagram. It's really important. All right.
It is.
All right, and
That's
so
right.
Laura, you won. So after 2 more games, I might ask you to come back in a championship round
Okay.
to face off against the winners of the other 2.
Yeah.
And so so you are the first winner.
Or
Laura
fight Rich in
is the
hand-to-hand
first one.
combat. It'd be great.
All right.
I'll win.
That is going to do it for us. Thank you
really
so
slow.
much
Hit
for
the legs.
watching Video Game Fights. You can check out Video Game Fights every Saturday on the Rich Alvarez channel, assuming that I enjoyed editing this one. All right. See ya.
That's a big if.
Guys.
Bye.
It's totally gonna get canceled.
Thank you for watching Video Game Fights. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of this episode. And watch this video because it's really sweet.